AD. Either way, it predates anything Islamic by 100 years. It was named for the founding monk. The founding monk came down from somewhere up in Turkey. Basically what was happening is they realized they were going to start a new monastery down here. And so in another monastery, they looked at their most mature person or somebody who they felt was able to then go out and lead up a cell of monks and say, we want you to go down and we want you to start it. So Elijah comes down here and he starts it. There may have already been a community that was already gathering together, and they said, we need a leader for that community. And so he came down here and started it, and then in honor of him, they refer to this as the Monastery of St. Elijah. And it's not really saints. If you look through Catholic books, you will not find a St. Elijah referring to this guy. Basically, it's in Europe, they would use the honorific title Dom, or Dom Frederick or Dom Francis, which is an honorific title used for monks who were very highly revered. It really translates closer to Dom, but people understand Saint a lot better, so that's what gets publicized or written out. What's fascinating in the background behind the whole formation of monasteries is what a period we call the Desert Monastics. Desert Monastics came into being when Augustine came into power. Augustine comes into power early 4th century, right before the Battle of Milvian Bridge, which was out of 313 and 315. He has a dream. What happened was the Roman Empire was splitting. It was falling apart. And he has a dream the night before he goes out against this other guy who became the emperor. And the dream said, conquer with this. And he saw the image of the letter Chi, or an X, with the letter Rho superimposed over it. Which if you ever go to a Catholic service or Episcopal service, you'll see Chi Rho, which the X has been moved out, shifted into a cross, and you still see the Rho symbol, known as the Chi Rho cross. That next morning, before they went into battle, he told all of his men, paint this on your shield. They went down to the Battle of Milvian Bridge and destroyed the other enemy. So, he comes into power, and in 325, he turned around and says, by the way, it used to be illegal to be a Christian and be in the military. Now it's illegal to be in the military and not be a Christian. Complete change. Complete paradigm shift. I mean, some of the guys before him, there was a guy named Nero, very twisted and demented emperor of Rome. He hated anybody who didn't like him. In fact, it was interesting. They would have them come up and put a pinch of incense on a fire and worship the Caesar, because the Caesar was God in their society. It's interesting. It's a good thing, President Bush doesn't do anything like that. Now, Saddam Hussein was pretty similar, But anyway, it's not similar to Bush, similar to Nero. All right, I want to make sure that I didn't just set myself up for some trouble there. And if you were a Christian, you found out you were a Christian, he persecuted you. Because Christians refused to bow down to the Caesar. They would give their taxes because they were told to do that. But they said, we will not give homage. We won't worship a human being. So he said, okay, that's fine. And he would have you persecuted. You would be tortured, and then he'd take your head off, put it onto a spike, and then all on the city wall, your heads would be there, but he'd soak them in oil. And then at nighttime, he'd light them. And you always hear the term, you ever hear the term on fire for Jesus? That's actually a derogatory term, referring back to the persecuted Christians. Nowadays, people have, spiritualized it a bit. But it was actually a very dirty and, vulgar term. The whole idea of a cross, actually, it's an instrument of punishment and death. So, what happens, though, Constantine becomes a Christian. He orders that as the official religion of the land. But now the church changes. Up until this point, the church was very different from culture. Women were actually in leadership roles. You had Jews, Greeks, Gentiles, slaves, and masters sitting together at table, having fellowship and treating each other with respect. Well, now the government says Christianity is the religion of the government. It's amazing. The church starts molding itself into the same society. Women are pushed off to the sides. You start seeing hierarchies come in. Slaves, well, they're back down here again. Masters are back up here. And the whole thing happens within the church. This whole idea of an equal society falls apart. And so the desert monastics come into being. They start going out into the desert, out into the hills. Some will retreat within the city. Some will go out into the mountains, out into the hills, and they would just dig a hole into the side of a mountain. And that would be their place. People would come and see them for spiritual guidance, prayer, insight. And sometimes people say, I want to be led in the way that you're following. So you could have 12 people who were then living under that Amma, or that Abba. They were male, Abba for father, Amma for mother. And they were fascinating stories. You really want to read. Look up a book on the desert fathers and mothers. You'll find lots of writings by them. Very quirky writings, too. They were trying to be very blunt and direct about their teaching. But that's how places like this came to be. This particular one, again, either started up in the 4th century under Constantine with Jesuit monastic start, which is very possible to start out as a small group and then grew in size. Or as late as 571, where we have written documentation that says this place existed in 571 under King Hermes IV. What's fascinating is you had monks living here, doing work here, educating people here, raising new monks, sending people out to start churches, out to start other monasteries. And that goes on and on. It bounces back and forth between the Holy Apostolic Church and then the Chaldean Church. In the late 1500s, the Chaldean Church reunited with the Roman Catholic Church. Prior to that, they were more closely affiliated with the Byzantine Church, which had its headquarters in Constantinople. Constantinople. What's that? Istanbul. Sorry, it's the new term. I was like, wait, that's the wrong city name. Istanbul is what used to be Constantinople, named after, of course, Constantine. He had no ego problems at all. Name cities after yourself. That's the way to do it. Get to be king and make a few cities. We don't have any. Do we have any bush towns in USA or anything like that? See, it's a very different society. But anyway, we will eventually have a library. Between 1743 and 1790, a guy named Nadir Shah, and I don't want to kill his first name, so I'm gonna have to look it up really quick. Tamaz Nadir Shah started killing Christians. He was actually a Turk from up in the Kurdish region. Comes down here, and it was very simple. You either convert to his faith, which was Islam, or you die. Very, very simple yes or no type equation. Well, he comes here and he says, hey, you guys can stay if you'll all become Islamic monks. Or you can get out, or you can die. And they said, we choose to die. So they hold this place up. And it became an Alamo. Anybody here from Texas? So you've been to the Alamo?
Yes.
It's a lot bigger than the Alamo.
Yes. Kind of looks like the Alamo.
Yeah. It became the Alamo. And they made their last stand. And for centuries, we had no idea what happened to those monks. Did they disappear? Did they run off somewhere else? Where were they buried? What's fascinating is we were looking for a below-ground morgue area, sort of like in the European area, where you would, I'm drawing a blank on what they call them.
Catacombs?
That's it, catacombs, sorry. We were looking for catacombs. They didn't do catacombs back then. What you did was you became part of the brick and mortar. They would put your bones into a jar, and you became part of the city wall. You became part of the past. Now, unless you were filthy rich, then you got your own little tomb. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the tour. So he killed them. And the place sort of sits in disrepair. Some people say that the Islamic community then turned this into a mosque of sorts, and an Islamic monastery. But then we lose history of this place. What happened to it? Who was using it? Until about World War I. After World War I, it becomes a refugee center. Now, what's fascinating about World War I, you had the British who were down here. And their idea of making countries wasn't, well, what clan is here, what tribe is here. Theirs was, this is a nice line, here's a nice line. We don't care who really lives there. They weren't culturally sensitive very, very much. So that's sort of what created the mess that, you had the Kurdistan region, the Sunni region, and the Shia region, which really, some people say should be 3 countries, and that's still a thing that's being debated by a lot of scholars. But they create Iraq. But when you put all those cultures together, there's going to be refugees. Not only that, but you have war going on throughout this region, which displaced a lot of people, destroyed a lot of homes. This place became a refugee center, which is kind of fascinating because this place also would treat sick while it was a functional monastery. And I'll talk a little bit while we're in there about that aspect. But at the same time, then, it sort of regained popularity among the people of Mosul. Now, it's fascinating if you study if you study Iraq, you get all these wonderful briefings. They say Iraq's about 1% Christian, right? 90% of those Christians in Mosul and the cities right around Mosul. So Mosul is an anomaly as far as Iraq is concerned. In fact, this entire region of the world. So you still had people from Mosul who would come up here because they remembered what it was. History never dies. People keep telling it to one another. And they would come up here and they would have special events here, or they would try to upkeep it a little bit. And that worked really well. Until the Iraqi army built some barracks right there. The Iraqi Republican Guard had barracks right down there. If you go up, just up over the hill, which you probably won't be going, but if you do go out to the range, you can see off to the one side, you see a bunch of PT bars and pull-up bars where they were doing their PT. Everybody's got to do it, no matter what country you're from. It kind of stinks, but we got to do it. And there were tanks. In fact, some of them never left that spot. that was their motor pool. It now has become a boneyard. And this became the tank battalion headquarters. And if you think about it, I mean, if you're looking at this from a military standpoint, you got a perfect bowl right here. Nobody can get to you. If you've got air superiority, nobody can get to you without you knowing they're coming first. You set a couple guards out on each one of your hills, nobody's going to get to you. Plus, you got a straight shot down to the river to head out if there's some sort of attack up on the Kurdish border or an attack down south, to immediately get out and respond. So it's a great location. Until 2003. When the American Army said, okay, we're going in. The Air Force was in as well. In fact, the Air Force was already in here before. Yeah, they were already flying sorties over here. I was with a Patriot Unit. It was fun to watch those guys go on the radar. You just watch these little blips. You knew what it was. And you just saw a line. It looked like a highway of lights on the radar screen. And you knew what was going on. Well, then 101st, of course, made their way up here. They snuck up through 3rd ID's sector, coming up into Baghdad, and they continue on up into Mosul. Came right through that pass. Now, this place would be protected under Geneva Convention, right? Under the laws of warfare, land warfare. That's true. And 101st was not going to touch this place until they got shot on. As soon as they got fired at, and there was a hasty tank emplacement right there, and one right there, well then, all bets are off. And it became an Alamo again. They hold up. In fact, you'll notice some of these windows, as you look at them, you'll see an outline around the window where a larger window used to exist. Which, when you want light inside, you have big windows. When it's a defensive operation, you make your outside windows really small. Less chance of getting shot. Kind of like putting T-walls around buildings. Not that we would do that. I mean, it's about defense and security. This became the Alamo. 101st came up here, and they went room by room. And they took out the Iraqi army who would not surrender. And so I invite you, while you're walking through, look for the bullet holes in the wall. Look for the bullets in the holes. Please don't try to pick any out, because the mortar is crumbling. And the wall could come down on you as you're trying to get that bullet out of there. Alright? And your buddies who are standing around you. One of the rooms in the back, you'll actually see an outline of bullets all the way across the wall from where somebody just took somebody out with a machine gun. Well then, we took it over, and they said, this is a great headquarters for them, why don't we make it our headquarters? And so 101st, they set it up, and I don't have anybody here with their patch. But have you ever seen the Screaming Eagle patch? You'll see the outline of one above the chapel door. They, of course, tagged it with their graffiti. Iraqis had tagged it with their graffiti. Crusaders, actually, tagged it with their graffiti several hundred years ago, and I'll point out some of their graffiti, too. Graffiti eventually becomes of historical significance. Now, did y'all go through Kuwait? Yeah. Oh, so you guys didn't visit the latrines in Kuwait. If you ever visit the latrines in Kuwait, Chuck Norris jokes abound. Every wall is covered with it. Okay. Hundreds of years from now, they will think we were the society that hid behind T-walls because of Chuck Norris. He was coming to get us. But anyway, our graffiti will become popular, or historical in years to come. 101st set up their headquarters in here, just that particular battalion, engineer battalion. They said they didn't know what this facility was. Then a chaplain ambled up through here, visiting the soldiers, seeing how they were doing. And he said, wait, hold on, you guys shouldn't be in here. Went to the division, got division's backing. The battalion was taken out of here. They put a fence around here. EOD came in, they did a sweep around here. They probably did about 90-95% job. I mean, they had much higher priorities, but they did sweep this area to make it safe. There are still some things out there, though. That's why I encourage you, if you see something that looks interesting, take a picture. Don't touch it, don't pick it up. A couple weeks ago, we had a soldier who picked up mortar, and I figured, oh, I'll just knock the dirt off it so I can see what it says. He is no longer with us. So, please, these things are going off. So leave them alone. In fact, the fire department about 2 weeks ago was doing a controlled burn out here. I think they were controlling a burn from a flare that went down. But as they're out there, an AC-4 missile took off and flew across and landed somewhere near the barracks. They said, from that point, we decided to stand behind the truck as we're watching the burn. So there's stuff out there. With that said, let me make sure I've covered everything real quick. I believe that is everything. Right now, access is controlled. Only chaplains can get the key, or the mayor's cell, because of course we get the key from the mayor's cell. Go on tours through here with the mayor's cell or with the chaplains. You'll see some artifacts sitting around. Please feel free to take a look at those. Take pictures. The ones right there by the door, feel free to go ahead and pick those up and look at them. Please put them back, though. It is a violation of General Order Number 1 to remove any artifacts from the theater. So please don't try to take any home, because these are several hundreds of centuries, or several several centuries worth of artifacts here. So please respect the history, and eventually we're hoping some people come in here, the place will be stable enough, they'll be able to excavate what's under here. All these mounds you see around here are what we call tells. There's an entire building underneath there. This little cave in right here is actually the roof of another building. And we may be standing on top of an entire layer of buildings below us. Well, there's a tunnel from that in there, but that's probably the domed roof from an actual building out here. So it's fascinating stuff you'll find out here. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and walk in.